All right, family, listen up. And when I say family, I'm not talking about blood. I'm talking about the crew on this wild ride trying to figure out what's real. So, let's get right into it. You ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? You're praying, you're affirming, you're putting that good energy out there. But the universe seems to have you on read. It's like you're sending out texts, but all you get back are those two little grey check marks. Yeah, we've all been there. So we hear this quote, "Ask, and you shall receive," and honestly, it can feel like a straight-up scam. You have been asking? Where's the receipt? Where's the delivery? But hold up. What if the whole problem is that we've completely misread the instructions? What if asking isn't about begging some far-off guy in the sky for a favor? What if receiving has nothing to do with a UPS truck pulling up to your house? Goldsmith cracked the code on this one, and it flips the entire script. It's not about changing your world, it's about realizing the world you're already in is a complete illusion. So, what's the real deal? What really goes down when you finally get why Jesus dropped that absolute fire of a statement? Stick around, because we're about to go deep. We're not just scratching the surface, we're digging for the motherlode. And I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to look at your entire life. The lack, the struggle, the whole 9 yards, in a way you never thought possible. If this hits home for you, do me a solid, like the video. Drop a "well-enven" in the comments if this is resonating with you, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, for trust me, you're going to want to be here for this. Let's dive in, so let's break down this first point, because if you miss this, nothing else clicks. The universal you ain't just you. We here ask, and you shall receive, and our entire frame of reference, our whole mindset is coming from this place of being a separate individual. This lonely little me down here looking up at a giant, sometimes grumpy universe out there. It's like we're standing outside a cosmic drive-through, shouting our order into a staticky intercom, hoping the guy on the other end hears us right and doesn't mess up our meal. We're begging, we're negotiating. Hey, if I do this good thing, can I get that thing I want? It's a transaction with a separate power. And when the bag comes back empty, or with the wrong stuff, we get pissed. We feel like the universe is broken, or worse, that we're being punished. But that's the whole illusion. That's the setup that's destined to fail every single time. Goldsmith cuts right through that nonsense. He teaches that the you in that statement isn't this bundle of flesh and bones with a name and a social security number and a bunch of personal problems. That's just the costume you're wearing for this lifetime. The real you, capital Y, is the Christ, the Buddha nature, the divine consciousness itself. It's the very same infinite, creative stuff that spun the galaxies into being. It's not a separate entity, it's the only entity there is. So, think about that for a second. If the real you is the divine, then who are you asking? You're not asking somebody else. It's consciousness speaking to itself. It's the ocean asking a wave for a drink of water. The asking and the receiving aren't two separate actions with a gap in between. They are one simultaneous movement of the one mind. When you truly grasp this, your whole approach to prayer and desire gets flipped on its head. You stop being a beggar at the door and you realize you're already in the house. In fact, you are the house. The power, the intelligence, the substance, it's not out there, it's in here because here is there is no separation. This is why begging never works. You can't lack what you are. A wave can feel lack, it can feel small and insignificant compared to the vast ocean, but that's just a feeling based on a misperception of its own nature. Its true nature is the whole ocean. Your true nature is the whole of divine consciousness. So when you come from that place of I and the Father are one, you're asking changes. It's no longer a desperate plea from a place of emptiness. It becomes a conscious recognition of a presence that is already fully formed and active within you. You're not creating something new. You're acknowledging what is. You're aligning your individual awareness with your universal source, and in that alignment, what you are, which is harmony, wholeness, abundance, peace, naturally and effortlessly manifests as your experience. You stop looking for supply, and you realize you are the source of it. You stop seeking love, and you acknowledge you are made of it. The asking becomes the receiving, because you're finally speaking from the only place where it's real. Which brings us right to the second piece of the puzzle, the one that changes everything about how you operate in this world. Asking from the soul, not the ego's shopping list. See, once you get that the you is this infinite, universal presence, you realize your little personal self, the ego, is a terrible guide for what to ask for. It's like letting a toddler write the grocery list. You're going to end up with a cart full of candy, chips, and a bunch of plastic toys that break in 5 minutes. The ego's list is always about s'mores, more money, a better job, a different relationship, a slimmer body. It's obsessed with rearranging the furniture in the outer world, with getting specific things to make this separate character feel safe, important, or happy. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but asking for them as specific, external objects is a dead end. It's like praying for a specific brand of car instead of praying for the freedom, joy, and mobility that the car represents. You're focusing on the container, not the content. Your soul, your Christ nature, doesn't operate on that level of specific forms. It doesn't care about the model of the car or the number in your bank account. Its entire desire is for the full expression of its own qualities: harmony, peace, wholeness, integrity, and limitless love. It's not interested in getting you a new job. It's interested in expressing fulfillment, creativity, and purpose through you, which might very well show up as a new job. But the form it takes is secondary. The primary thing is the substance, the spiritual quality, coming into manifestation. So, when you pray from the ego, you're saying, "Please, God, give me $1 million." You're stating a desired effect and begging for a cause. But when you pray from the soul, you get quiet. You go within, you touch that infinite presence that you are, and you listen. The prayer isn't a list of demands, it's a state of humble receptivity. It's you, the individual consciousness, getting still and acknowledging, "Thy will be done." Not as a passive surrender to some outside force, but as an active alignment with the only will there is, the will of the divine, which is your own true will. You're not asking for things, you're becoming a transparency through which the divine qualities flow out into your experience and take the forms that are most appropriate for your journey. This is the secret. The receiving is built into this new kind of asking. When your ask is an inner alignment with peace, you have already received peace, and your outer world must eventually conform to that inner reality. It has no other choice. You can't be aligned with inner peace and have a life of perpetual chaos. It's a cosmic impossibility. So you stop handing the universe a blueprint for a house, and you start embodying the safety, comfort, and joy of a home. And then watch as the universe, in its infinite intelligence, provides the perfect form, the actual house, that matches your embodied state. The asking is the receiving the moment it shifts from a want to a lived internal reality. You're not waiting for God to mail you a package. You're unwrapping the gift that you already are, and your life becomes the evidence of that unwrapping. And that's where we land on the third key, the one that stops all the anxious waiting and turns this whole thing from a theory into a lived reality. The hook up is already live. You just gotta tune in. This is the game changer, right here. Because if you're walking around thinking this is a process of creation, you're still stuck in a timeline. You're thinking, okay, step 1, I get my mind right. Step 2, I send up the order. Step 3, I wait for God to cook it up and ship it out. That entire model is based on a delay, a gap between your asking and your receiving. It keeps you in a state of lack, always looking to the future for your satisfaction. But the radical, absolute truth that Goldsmith points to is that there is no delay. The kingdom of heaven isn't coming on a cloud someday, it is at hand, right now. The connection isn't something you have to build or earn, it's the fundamental fact of your being. You are already plugged into the infinite mains. The current is always flowing. The problem is never with the source. The problem is always with our receiver. We're like a radio that's been knocked slightly off the station. We're getting static, a little bit of the music mixed with a whole lot of noise. And we think, man, the symphony must not be playing tonight. Or worse, we think we have to beg the orchestra to start playing. But the symphony of divine harmony is always broadcasting full blast 24/7. Our work is not to create the music, our work is to adjust our own dial. Our dial is our consciousness. All the meditation, the prayer, the spiritual reading, that isn't us building a connection to God. That's us cleaning the static out of our own mental apparatus, so we can clearly perceive the signal that has never, for a single second, stopped transmitting. When you truly get this, it takes all the pressure off. You stop trying to make something happen, and you start allowing what already is to reveal itself. Your entire focus shifts from trying to change the outer world to adjusting your inner tuning. You stop looking for signs and start listening for the silence underneath the noise. You begin to notice that the intelligence that coordinates the galaxies is the same intelligence orchestrating the details of your life. A solution appears at the perfect time. A person calls with exactly the right word. An opportunity emerges from what looked like a dead end. This isn't magic. This is what life looks like when your radio is tuned clearly to the station of infinity. The music was always there. You just couldn't hear it over the static of your own fears, your doubts, and your ego's frantic plans. The supply was always present. You were just looking for it in the form of a check in the mail, when it was actually flowing to you as an idea, a healed relationship, or a sudden moment of profound peace that changed your entire day. The receiving, then, is simply the act of getting yourself out of the way, of quieting the personal mind enough to let the fullness of what is register in your awareness. It's not about getting something new, it's about becoming aware of the omnipresent good that has never been absent. And this brings us to the natural, undeniable conclusion of all this. It's an inside job, the outer world is just a rerun. This is where most of us get it backwards every single time. We are conditioned to believe that the outer world, the circumstances, the bank account, the relationships, the state of our body, is the primary reality. We treat it like the main event, and we think our inner world, our thoughts and feelings, are just little reactions to that big, solid external show. So we spend our entire lives trying to fix, control, and rearrange the outer world in a desperate attempt to feel better on the inside. We think if we can just get the right job, the right partner, the right amount of money, then we'll finally have the peace and security we're craving. It's a complete and total inversion of the way reality actually works. The unshakable principle of this teaching is that consciousness is the only cause. The outer world of effect has no power of its own. It is entirely a projection, a shadow, a perfect and precise reflection of the dominant state of consciousness within you. It's not that your thoughts create your reality in a magical, manifesting on demand kind of way. It's much more profound and absolute than that. Your experienced reality is your consciousness objectified. There is no separation. The world you see is a mirror, and it cannot show you anything that you are not first entertaining at some level within yourself. If you see conflict, it is because you are holding conflict within. If you experience lack, it is because you are clinging to a state of consciousness that believes in separation from your own source. The outer picture is always lagging behind. It's the rerun of an inner movie that has already been filmed in the silent studios of your own awareness. This is why trying to fix the outer world without addressing the inner cause is like trying to change the image on a movie screen by polishing the screen itself. You can buff it and clean it all you want, but as long as the same film is rolling through the projector, you're going to see the same picture. The projector is your consciousness. When you grasp this, your entire life's work shifts. You stop being a victim of circumstances and you become a student of your own mind. You stop reacting to the reflection and you start inquiring into the source of the projection. You begin to ask the only question that has any real power. What state of consciousness am I entertaining that is allowing me to perceive this? This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about empowering yourself. It means that you are never at the mercy of a capricious world. You are the author, and the world is simply the book. Faithfully recording the story you are telling yourself from within. When you change the inner script from one of fear to one of faith, from lack to wholeness, from judgment to love, the outer world has no choice but to change its testimony to match the new evidence. The rerun has to change because you've swapped out the film. Peace in consciousness must, by its own law, become peace in expression. Harmony within must inevitably manifest as harmony without, which leads us directly to the fifth and most practical key, the one that separates the theoretical from the transformational. Your receiving is an unshakable knowing, not a wish. This is the part where we move out of the classroom and into the laboratory of your own life. Because understanding all this in your head is one thing, but living it is something else entirely. And the bridge between the two is this specific, tangible, inner experience. Most of us, when we ask for something, we're operating from a place of hope. It's a wish sent out into the void, tinged with a silent desperation, a subtle fear that the answer might be no. We're like someone standing on the dock, looking out at the ocean and hoping a ship might come in. That hope is rooted in the perception of absence. You only hope for what you do not have. But true prayer, this aligned asking we've been talking about, doesn't operate in the realm of hope. It operates in the realm of knowing. And knowing is a completely different faculty. It's not intellectual agreement. It's a visceral, unarguable certainty that comes up from the depths of your being, a certainty that exists prior to any outer evidence. It's the captain of the ship, standing on the bridge, knowing the destination is ahead even through the fog. He doesn't hope he's going to arrive. He knows the course he has set is true. This knowing is the actual receiving. It is the substance of the thing you've asked for, made manifest in your consciousness as a settled fact. If your ask is for peace the moment you achieve that inner alignment, a profound stillness descends. The chaos outside may still be swirling, but there is a core within you that is unmoved. That unmoved core is the peace itself. You have received it. The outer circumstances will eventually have to conform to that new solid reality. If your ask is for supply, the receiving isn't the physical money showing up in your hand. The receiving is the inner, unshakable conviction of your own wholeness and completeness, the feeling that you are the very source of abundance, and that all need is an illusion. That feeling of inner fullness is the substance. The money, the opportunity, the solution, these are just the temporary forms that this substance of abundance naturally takes as it flows into your experience. This is why you can't fake it. You can't affirm, I am abundant, while your gut is clenched in fear. That's just a wish, a prayer from the ego. The real work is to sit in the silence until the inner clamor of fear and lack dissolves and is replaced by that quiet, authoritative knowing that all is well. It's a feeling so certain that it renders the outer evidence irrelevant. You don't need to see the ship to know it's coming. You've already felt its presence in your spirit. This knowing is the proof. It is the demonstration. When you have that, the outer manifestation is simply the world catching up to a truth that you have already anchored in the only reality that exists, the reality of consciousness. The waiting is over because you possess the substance of the thing, and the form is now inevitable. It's no longer a matter of if, but only when, and even the when ceases to be a concern, because in that state of knowing you are already complete. And this brings us to the final piece, the one that grounds this entire mystery in something solid, something you can actually rely on. This ain't magic. It's the mechanics of how reality works. That's the part that can really throw people for a loop. When you hear these ideas, it's easy to dismiss them as some kind of woo-woo, positive thinking mumbo-jumbo. Or, on the other hand, you might get it twisted and think you've just been handed a magic wand to get whatever you want. But both of those misses are a complete misunderstanding of the absolute, impersonal law that's in play here. This isn't about bending the universe to your personal will. That's the ego's fantasy of magic. This is about understanding the unbreakable rules of the game so you can stop banging your head against the wall and start flowing with the current. It's the difference between believing in miracles and understanding the physics of consciousness, which, to the uninitiated, looks exactly like a miracle. Think of it like gravity. Gravity doesn't have opinions. It doesn't decide who it likes today or who it's going to punish. It's a constant, impersonal force. If you step off a roof, you're going down. It doesn't matter if you're a saint or a sinner, the law is the law. The same is true for this principle. The law of consciousness being the sole cause is just as relentless and just as impartial. The universe, this field of pure mind, is always and only projecting outwards whatever is held within. It can't do otherwise. It's not a personality that you can sweet, talk, or annoy. It is a perfect, mirror-like mechanism. If your inner state is one of chaos and victimhood, the mechanism will faithfully produce a chaotic, victim-filled experience. If, through your spiritual work, your inner state shifts to one of peace and dominion, the mechanism has no choice but to project that instead. It's not rewarding you, it's just obeying its own nature. This is why your inner work is the only work that matters. You are, in every moment, setting the dial for your own experience. When you react to the outer picture with fear or anger, you are just resetting the dial to the same old station, guaranteeing more of the same static. But when you can catch yourself, when you can turn within and consciously realign with the truth of your Oneness, when you can choose to feel the substance of peace even when the storm is raging, you are engaging the mechanics of reality. You are, quite literally, reprogramming the source code. The outer shift is not a reward for good behavior, it is a mechanical, inevitable consequence of the inner adjustment. The image on the screen must change when you change the film in the projector. There is no other possible outcome. So this whole journey is about taking your hands off the things you can't control, the outer effects, and placing them firmly on the one thing you can, the state of consciousness from which you perceive and interact with the world. You stop being a beggar at the mercy of a magical universe, and you become a conscious operator of the most profound technology in existence, the law of your own awareness.